Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Welcome back to the Whistleblowers Bonus Ball, your little extra episode with the one and only Mark Clattenburg and the equally talented hoodie-wearing, youthfully dressed Ian Ladyman. Happy with that, Ian? No.
I just want to get through one podcast without you mentioning what I'm wearing. It's my only aim in life.
Because you see what I wear every week and you're trying to copy.
You know,
no, if I
he's got no socks on.
If I was going to copy what you were, I'd just go and raid my daughter's wardrobe. I'd be all right.
Like, I've got a hoodie on. I've got a hoodie on. He puts a hoodie on.
All right.
The day Ian turns up with one item of clothing without a hole will be the day we don't mention his clothes. I mean, honestly, it's like the moths in Wigan are absolutely famished by the looks of it. Underfed. Right, boys, here we go with the bonus ball. We're going to start with a question, as we always do. So thank you to Peter, who asks this question. He says, I'm a huge West Brom fan, Black Country, born and bred. But 10 years ago, I moved down south for work. I try my best to get to games, but it's increasingly rare, which is why the fact the 3 p.m. blackout still exists in this day and age blows my mind. Most club games are at 3 on a Saturday, and I'm stuck having to watch YouTube highlights every week. Why are we still having to deal with this madness week in, week out? We can't all just wait for a match of the day. Right, Peter's question, Ian. Why is there a blackout still in football?
If you're a West Brom fan, you'll be waiting a long time until the next on match of the day. Well, look, it depends whether we want people to turn up to watch our football matches in person or not, or whether we just want football to become a TV-only sport. Go back to COVID days and have them in empty stadiums if that's what people want. Look, I'm being facetious, but you can probably guess where I stand on this. Look, the blackout has been in place since the 60s. It's for those who aren't clear, it's the way that the football authorities and the government make sure or try and ring fence. I'm going to explain this badly. They try to ring fence football as a spectator sport. In other words, if you put every 3 o'clock kickoff on TV, then they worry that nobody will bother actually going to the games anymore because they won't need to. So that's why you're not allowed to show televised football. We think it's between 3 o'clock and 5:15, I think. Now, it's a nuanced subject, of course. I absolutely sympathise with people like the guy sent in the question, live far away, can't get to games. Why should they not be able to watch the team? So I get it, and I think over time it will change. The Premier League have hinted that it might change. Even the government have hinted that at some point it might change. Sky certainly would like it to change. The TV companies would like it to change. But that's the trade-off. It always staggers me and impresses me the numbers of people that still go to live football down the pyramid. If you look at attendances in the Champ and in League One and League Two, places like Stockport, for example, and Bradford, for example, and at the moment places like Coventry and Middlesbrough, they're absolutely extraordinary. And I love that because it indicates that our game is healthy, okay? And if you do start broadcasting all of those games on television as they take place, you do threaten that. You threaten to undermine that. And that is... You're pulling a face, Mark, and I understand it. But that is these people who go on a Saturday afternoon, that remains the lifeblood of what our game is. It remains the fundamental of our game. It's a fundamental of the game in this country.
Our understanding.
And if you take the blackout away, you threaten that.
I just think we're now going into modern era, modern society. We're changing a lot of things, of course. I'm not sure what 2 hours does. If 3 o'clock kickoffs are 5 o'clock kickoffs, 5:15 kickoffs, 5:30 kickoffs, we're now having games on a Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll have games on Christmas Eve. We're having games on Boxing Day at 8 o'clock. That never happened before. So there is a big change in the way games are. What's interesting is, I live in Spain. I can watch every game at 3 o'clock. But in England, you can't. But in Spain, I can. So BN Sports shows all of the Premier League matches. So the places in Spain can get access to that. They buy the subscription from BN and they can do it. It's only in England where we have this blackout, which is back in the times when they did need to protect like you've just said, a great point. There was a need for spectators to be in the stadiums. I don't believe by opening up the 3 o'clock kickoffs there would be a big change in attendance.
So
I think people like Peter, who's got a big valid point in my opinion, and I get your counter argument, but there is a lot of people now who travel or can't travel to the games that would like to see them games. And I think by opening up the 3 o'clocks will create more revenue for the clubs, because it will get more. TV companies would love the 3 o'clocks to broadcast more games, which would create more revenue for the clubs. And it would give the fans who live rural that can't travel to the games a chance to see their team.
So I will take you back to when I was a kid. Okay, so when I was a kid, and this is as simple as it was. We used to wake up on a Saturday morning, and my dad would look at the fixtures in the newspaper and say, "Where should we go today?" Okay, we're born and brought up in Wigan. Where should we go? All right, and we'd go somewhere. We'd usually go somewhere like Bolton or Blackburn, or occasionally, if we were feeling a bit braver, we might go to Everton because you could get in on the day or something like that. But we'd go to watch you'd normally go and watch what was back in the days a second division game. All right, that was now. My dad said to me, "Let's go and watch Blackburn versus Coventry in the second division." I'd say to him, "Yeah, but Dad, Liverpool versus Aston Villa's on the telly at 3 o'clock. Can we not just watch that? Or it's raining, Dad. Can we not just watch Blackburn versus Coventry on the telly?" And that's essentially the start and the finish of my argument. And I think as soon as you start to give people options, then an opportunity not to go to live football, especially when it's November and it's -4 and it's raining, then they'll start to take it. Now, the counter argument to me, the valid counter argument, is that because of illegal streaming, people are watching these games anyway. Now that's an issue.
No, that's a
real issue.
Yeah, that is a big issue.
That's a real issue,
Yeah.
because people are doing it. I'm not going to name him because I wouldn't, because I'm not sure it's strictly illegal. But I know someone who watches every Sheffield Wednesday game at 3 o'clock, come what may. He's either at Hillsborough, or if they're away from home, he can't make it, he's watching it on a stream. So we have got a problem.
But that's a good problem. But that you've just raised a great point, that if the leagues want to stop piracy, then give what the fans want to see. And if the fans want to see the games at 3 o'clock, this would reduce piracy, because, people who have watched these games on the pirate through the Fire Sticks or whatever they've got are always saying that the feeds are minutes behind. Yeah. So therefore, they're never getting the actual real thing. Yeah. And with all the notifications on your mobile, the goal's going in, you're actually not seeing the goal for another 2-3 minutes time. So if they allowed the broadcast companies access to, especially I think it would help the lower league teams as well, because it would increase the revenue from the TV companies, which the clubs need financially. I'm not sure the diehards, yes, you'll have the minority that would say, "Dad, let's go and watch this game today." But the diehards would still watch their club if it was on the telly or not, because I don't believe now you see Football League games kicking off at 12:30? And they're going against the 12:45 on the Premier League. It doesn't really affect the attendances.
How did it affect you, Mark, as a referee? So if the blackout's in place, right, and is there like a second wave of interest in what you've done in the game? Because you'd have the people who were there live who would question your decision, and then obviously there's a match of the day summary of it, which might focus on a couple of decisions. There's a sort of a second wave of referee in the game that comes.
Oh, but I say that's the best thing, if you get the right decision. I remember one of my last games, I'd just signed for Saudi Arabia. So it was back in 2017, and Mike Riley asked us, do you want to referee? Because I said I would stay till the end of the season, because I didn't feel it was fair to leave straight away. I'd signed a contract in Saudi. I said, look, I'll stay till the end of the season. And he said, no problems. Do you want to referee next week? I said, yeah, of course I want to be. Of course I want to be refereeing. So I was assigned to referee West Brom, which is Peter's team. It was against Bournemouth. And there was 3 decisions in the game. 3 big decisions, all went against West Brom. All. And I mean all. Tony Pulis was the manager. So I'm getting abuse of Tony Pulis coming off. I'm getting Doug's abuse from West Brom fans as I'm walking down the tunnel. I'm then getting shouted at because we've got where the dressing rooms are. It backs onto the main road. I'm getting batting me window. They're shouting obscenities, right? I've left 45 minutes after the game where everybody had dispersed. The following week, for me sins, I was appointed 4th official West Brom again. And guess what? Tony Pulis' first words were, Mark, he said, you had a very good game last week. He said, them 3 decisions were correct. And the fans, as I'm getting out in the minibus to go into the stadium, never said a word. So you've got one side of it, if you get the decisions right, they can watch it back on Match of the Day. But what you see in the stadium is completely the opposite of what you see live.
What I like about that story is a bit of psychology from Mike Riley. So he's losing his best referee. His best referee is pissing off to Saudi. So Mike Riley, head of referee, says, "Oh, do you still want to work? Do you still want to work?" Mark, "Oh yeah, I want to work. I want to work. Do you want a game this weekend?" "Oh yeah, I want a game this weekend." So what does he do with his best referee? He sends him to West Brom versus Bournemouth.
It gets better, the story that. It gets better. So they say to us, so I've refereed West Brom, Bournemouth, then I'm 4th official at West Brom.
Gets worse.
So he said, the following week he said, because it was near the end, so he says that the last week he said, by the way, he says, you're going to referee your last game. It was about 3-4 games from the end. He says, we don't really need you going forward. And I said, no, fine, it doesn't bother me. He says, so where would you like to go? And I thought, it'd be nice. I could take my family down to London, have a weekend in London. And I said, I would like to finish it, say Tottenham, because I had special memories of White Hart Lane. I loved White Hart Lane. I thought, and the agent who would help us move to Saudi was a big Tottenham fan. I thought that would be nice weekend with the families, special time. Gets the appointments. Guess where I'm going? West Brom, Leicester. West Brom, fucking Leicester. And you know what? Nothing against West Brom, right? Nothing against West Brom. But every referee knew, right? Every referee knew, because there's some clubs, like for example, Manchester United were brilliant with the match officials. So you would go up to like a boardroom area. There would be a 3-course meal, alcoholic drinks, soft drinks. They were looked after the guests. Certain clubs were special. West Brom was on the lower end of the spectrum, where the guests were put on the far side of the stadium with very little, so you never got really to meet them. So when you got because every match official, I don't know what it's like now, but every match official got 2 tickets for the game. So the 4th official, the referee, and the 2 assistants all got 2 tickets. So when I was appointed to West Brom, I couldn't give them away. No disrespect to the club, it was just nobody really wanted to go for the hospitality as well as the game. So to say to my family, look, my last game's at West Brom, would you like to come? The answer was
no.
Correct.
No. So how much did you get for them? How much did you get for those tickets when you flogged them on the black market?
No, I didn't flog them.
Exactly.
I didn't flog them. I got presented with a shirt by both teams, and I remember Tony Pulis saying to us before the game, he couldn't believe that the best referee in England, he said, his words, not mine, the best referee in England is leaving the Premier League. Why? Why is the Premier League allowing you to leave?
Well, he knew the answer, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, but just rewind to the question. I do think that what you talk about piracy, Mark, the way that you come at that is kind of, oh, well, the piracy's here. Well, what I would like to do before we think, oh, well, the piracy's here, so therefore we might as well deliver the same thing formally and for money and to a better standard, is let's try and get rid of the pirate. Let's clamp down on the piracy first. Before we do anything, I just think that the paying spectator in English football remains its lifeblood. I'm sorry, in many, many, many ways. And I do think that we need to look after them to a degree. There's enough football on the television. Is there not? Is there not enough?
But there is. Of course, there's too much. However, we're not all naive enough to think that the TV companies have actually changed, certainly the Premier League, and probably how this championship and the lower league clubs can survive. So without this TV and without changing the kickoffs to suit them, a lot of clubs would have hit the wall by now. So, and I raised your point about the privacy, the privacy of the legal streaming or whatever, privacy, the illegal streaming. I get that, but there is one way you're never going to stop the whole thing. It's impossible, because once one closes down, the other one comes up. But one of the best it'll happen eventually, and it'll happen probably sooner rather than later. The Premier League will have their own channels, and they'll
Yeah,
stream
each
So
club.
you will choose your clubs, and it'll be the same in the lower leagues, where you'll be able to choose your club, and you pay so much a month, and you can watch your team. And will that affect the attendances? I doubt it, because you know what? Still, people love to go before the game, have a pint, have a pie, have the bovrils, whatever they have, with their fathers, with their family members, and they look forward to that so much. And I'm not sure them sitting in the house watching it will affect that massively.
A pint of pie and a bovril. That's a heck of a
I like a
menu.
bovril.
In which order? That's the question.
We know now that we're in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Now, we all know the real pros want to spend as much time on the job as possible rather than kicking around in store, don't they?
Exactly. And with Wix Trade Pro, you save 10% every time you shop in store or online. No minimum spend. That's like a guaranteed 3 points every week.
VR's checked it, and it's true.
Right, and here's the real time saver. Wix Click and Collect, order online, you head straight to collect in store, grab what you need, and you're back on site before half-time. How about that?
Which allows you more time to get the job done.
Download the Wix Trade Pro app today, sign up, simple as that.
Terms and conditions apply.
Time for football from the inside out. Ian, you've got a question for Mark this week.
Yes, I have got a question for Mark. And I've got to remember what it was. It is. So, if there was one game, Mark, in your career that you would like to replay and have the chance to referee again, simply to correct the mistakes that you made in that game, what would it be? And secondly, if there was, what's the game that you would like to go back and experience again because it was so special?
Well, I'll answer your first question. Polly, what is it? 298 Premier League games? I would like to re-referee if all of the fans want to, if all the fans are watching this podcast to say, you know, when he made mistakes in this game, mistakes in this game. But there's one game I would definitely love to re-referee, and that was something that caused me huge problems, and it was the Merseyside Derby.
Oh, yeah.
Where, just to give people a background, if you're an Everton fan, you will remember very well. And there was things in the game. I was a young referee, and it would have been, 2005, I think? If I recall, it would be 2005, if I recall correctly. And I was only 1 year into my Premier League career, and I was given the Manchester Derby, Manchester City, Manchester United. The following week, I was given the North London Derby, Tottenham Arsenal. And then the week after, I was appointed to referee Everton Liverpool. And I'm not saying it's an excuse. I hadn't experienced this type of derby before. I've just named two other derbies, which are totally different derbies. This was ferocious. This was a working class derby that I experienced it as a fan, Newcastle Sunderland, but I hadn't experienced as a referee, and I just got it completely wrong. Could I have got away?
Just tell us what the score was in the...
So it finished 3. Was it? I can't remember the score now. It was because there's that much going on in the game. So I've sent off 2 Everton players. Right. One that Everton fans think that I've changed my mind because Steven Gerrard is walking past the camera when I'm changing the pockets, when I'm thinking, well, I'm getting a yellow card out. When we're talking about all equipment in my pockets, I pulled out the red card and I'm thinking, it's not a yellow card, it's a red card. It's denying of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. But they think that Steven Gerrard said something which clearly never happened. It's just because he was walking past the camera when I've changed the cards. But it was always a red card, which was Tony Hibbert. And then I've sent off Phil Neville for a handball on the line. But the big mistake was there was a challenge by Dirk Kuyt where he goes airborne. He doesn't make contact, but he jumps into a challenge. So when you watch the still and you watch the video back, how is he not sent off? And I took advice from the assistant referee, who was very experienced, who I probably thought I should rely on because he had more seniority. He was more experienced than I was. He'd officiated in these derbies many, many times. I hadn't. And I took his advice. He'd said a yellow card, and I'd give a yellow card, which was a mistake in Everton's eyes. But the worst mistake was at near the end of the game. And as the ball gets played in, I don't say anything. I don't say one thing. And I don't know if I'm just mentally fatigued, what was going on in my mind. But Jamie Carragher's pulled down Julian Lescott for an easy penalty. And this would have, we talk about football understanding. If I'd give this penalty and Everton had the chance to equalise, this would have probably, I would have got some criticism in the game.
But you got away with it.
But I wouldn't have got the huge criticism that I received, because by not awarding that penalty, in Everton's eyes, correctly, in David Moyes' eyes, I'd made 3 big errors, or 4 errors, or whatever. All the big decisions seemed to go against Everton, and everything went in favour of Liverpool. And in such, knowing what a derby means to everyone, being a Newcastle fan, and how it would be for Everton and Liverpool, to make them errors and have such a bad performance, was always going to receive what I received. The death threats, the abuse. I didn't referee Everton for, I think, 6 years after. And the abuse I took even that day that I re-refereed them 6 years later at Aston Villa, was the abuse I took verbally was not at it. You shouldn't receive it. However, did I deserve it? I didn't deserve that abuse, but I deserved some criticism, because that performance was not to any standard that I always wanted to achieve. Did I learn something from that game? 100% learned from that game. I learned a lot as a person. I learned a lot as a referee, how to understand the game, how to understand emotions, how to balance emotions in the game. And if that was one game I would love to referee again and have me there, would be that, to try and get the decisions right. But also, why did I miss that decision at the end? They found a player ran across my vision. But that's not an excuse. I should have had a better angle to see that. If I'd awarded that penalty at the end and Everton had drew that game, I would have received some criticism, but it wouldn't have been to the level I would have. And that was always one of my learning points when I started getting more experience at the top level, especially in international matches, is understanding that balance of, not having all weighed one side to one team. And sometimes you have to send players off, but teams always feel wronged if there's many decisions gone against them. They feel that you're against them.
Fascinatingly, you said at the start that you thought the Merseyside Derby was at a different level to the North London Derby and even the Manchester Derby.
It was ferocious. Manchester Derby was a football match. The North London Derby was a football match. This was just a war, and I got it wrong. I remember coming off at half time thinking, I'm doing all right here. But it was the second half, whatever's changed, and I just lost. I lost control. I lost my focus. I lost my ability to make decisions. And I just, for a young referee, and I recovered. I refereed Everton years later, and some amazing matches when they beat Manchester City 4-0, beat Manchester United 2-0, David Moyes' last game as a Manchester United manager.
The Grim Reaper day.
I had some incredible, I played some wonderful advantage when I remember Lukaku scoring with a header. Just lots of amazing things. But people only remember that one moment. That one moment in your career they'll never forgive. Football fans never forgive you. It doesn't matter how many good decisions you actually make.
And what about let's flip it then. What about the one that has the nicer connotations, the one that you would want to live all over again just because of what it meant to you or how big an occasion it was?
Well, there's two. One, the first one I would say was the Olympic Games, Game final in 2012. Wow. Why I would like to referee, I loved refereeing that was, it was a complete different side of football that I saw. You didn't get that ferocious abuse from the crowd. And what was strange was, even if I could shut my eyes, I knew when there was a free kick, because the crowd would go, ooh. It was a different set of football fans. It was because the Olympic Games were a lot of families. They got tickets. And, a lot of people who went to watch the football.
I don't even know who was in it. Who was in it?
Brazil, Mexico, which Neymar, there were some top players played in it. But what it was I found a lot of the fans who went to watch the football, and all the stadiums were full, was because they couldn't get tickets for the athletics or they couldn't get tickets for the sports so they put football as one of their last sports, so they got tickets, and the final was full. 90,000 people at Wembley. One of my first experiences, a major final at Wembley. It was a FIFA tournament for me, so it was one of my development tournaments to do well. And I remember Blatter in the lift after the match saying, Mark, very good referee, you, very good referee. And I thought, wow, I feel $1 million at the time. The head of FIFA said something like that. So it was one of them special games that I'll never.
Do you get a medal?
I got a participating medal. I never got a gold medal.
No, I was going to say, did you get some kind of
we
Olympic
got a participating medal. Yeah.
Cool.
But I always remember the Olympic Games was always special because we had to wear an outfit. All the umpires in every sport, including
the same
football,
one.
and you had to have a hat. It was like an old, like a proper English style trilby hat. With I know I've still got the jacket. It was blue.
When did you wear that?
Went on the way to games.
Oh,
on the train going up to Manchester. But it was one of that tournament was by far the greatest ever tournament I've ever been in. I was staying in. I had a month in the Mayfair Hotel, living the best life I ever had in London. It was one of the best experiences. But the best game, probably Premier League wise, and people have certainly criticised me performance, but it was one of them games that I'll never forget, and I never slept afterwards. Was the Battle of the Bridge.
Oh wow, how was it that
It
game?
was one of the most.
I wouldn't have thought that would be the one. I thought that would be one that you'd want to forget.
No, because it was just emotionally, and what happened during it, and the war it became, and me not wanting to be the centre of attention, which people say, hell, Mark, you not wanting to be the centre of attention. Actually, I went into the mindset. Look, let them be the talking point. Let them be the ones that decide the championship. I didn't want to be the one.
So this was Chelsea versus Tottenham.
Yeah, so it was the Battle of the Bridge, Chelsea versus Tottenham. But it was all the build-up. Chelsea players weren't having a great season. Chelsea, Tottenham needed to win to keep the title running. So Leicester didn't win the title. If the match was a draw or a loss, Leicester had won the title. So all of this drama that, Tottenham were 2-0 up at half-time, Chelsea came back to 2-2. It was an incredible atmosphere. There was incredible things going on. I think VAR would have been the busiest. I think we might have had about a half an hour extra
there
time.
now.
Yeah. But when you saw what happened afterwards, and then you saw the images, the videos, and the next days, the videos of Leicester, how that all came about when nobody believed Leicester could win the title. And that whole season was unique for me in the Premier League, where you actually saw a team compete against the big boys and be successful. And that game was probably one of the most special games.
Mark, did you feel you were refereeing those games wanting Leicester to win just because it was? be honest,
I refereed Leicester probably most than anybody else that season. But no, I think your heart is a human being. I think your heartstrings were wanting Leicester, but from a professional point of view, all I cared about was not making mistakes. But people say, well, hold on, you made loads of mistakes in that Battle of the Bridge. I made mistakes. I didn't send off players that I should have sent off. Dembele off the ball, gouged Diego Costa's eye. I think he received 6 matches after it. So that was a Tottenham player. Then I should have sent off Eric Dyer. I should have definitely sent him off at the end, but I wanted to play an advantage because I thought Edward Hazard could have scored. And I thought, God, if Edwin Hazard scores here, this would be a great advantage. Forgetting that Eric Dyer was the one that brought him down. Fabregas alleged to have his fingers stamped on. There was lots of things going on, but it was just one of them incredible games where, how I got to not send anybody off, nobody can believe. But did I mean to do that? No, I just probably went with the game as well and got caught in the emotions. And sometimes as referees, you can't be caught in emotions. You've actually got to stay focused. But this game was so unique. I ended up getting involved in the emotions and probably missed what was going on in the field. But afterwards, when you really watch it back, it was an incredible Premier League spectacle.
What an answer that is as well, by the way. Great stuff, Mark Clattenburg, Ian Ladyman. What a pleasure to be with you again. We'll be back again next week. Remember, you can get in touch with us and email us as well. Send us some of your questions like Peter did this week, whistleblowers@dailymail.com. And as always, social accounts are open for your thoughts and constructive criticism like we received in the week.
Keep it clean, chaps. Keep it clean.
On X, it's Blowers Pod. On TikTok, it's at Whistleblowers Podcast. Instagram, at Whistleblowers. Thursday for the next instalment. That leaves one thing for you to do, Mark. Once again, you've forgotten your whistle.
No, look what, I found one. Can we get it off?
No, we can't.
Oh, we can't get it off. No, we can't blow it, so.
I can blow it.
Can you blow? Go on then. Ian's going to have a little blow.
Oh. I've got no pee in me whistle.
He's got no pee in his whistle.
Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, episodes every Thursday and Tuesday, and on a Sunday, you'll get our clip of the week.